Hey, in this video I'm going to snatch 22 minutes of your precious time with completely useless information about Game of Thrones, which at this point you're going to forget about before you even have time to click off this video. Ready? Let's go. The Dothraki language in Game of Thrones was created with over 4,000 words specifically for the series by linguist David J. Peterson of the Language Creation Society. Peterson also released a guidebook titled Living Language Dothraki in October 2014 to help fans learn the language. The original pilot episode was extensively reshot after its initial screening received poor reception. Several key scenes were reworked and some actors were even recast. In the original pilot, Catelyn Stark was played by Jennifer Ehle and Daenerys Targaryen was portrayed by Tamsin Merchant. But after the pilot received negative feedback, both roles were recast. Lena Headey, who played Cersei Lannister, and Jerome Flynn, who portrayed Bronn, were kept apart on set due to a past relationship. After their off-screen breakup, a strict policy was put in place to ensure they never filmed together. In fact, a crew member revealed that they were kept apart at all times, with Lena reportedly holding strong negative feelings toward Jerome. Kit Harington once broke his ankle while trying to climb into his apartment after forgetting his keys. In an attempt to jump over a fence to get inside, he landed awkwardly and fractured his ankle. Despite the injury, Kit continued to work on Game of Thrones, and the show even worked the injury into Jon Snow's character, with him sporting a limp in some episodes as a result. Charles Dance, who played Tywin Lannister, once skinned a real deer during a scene on Game of Thrones. To make the scene as authentic as possible, they hired a professional butcher to teach him how to skin the deer. Charles quickly became quite skilled at it, and the intense, real-life experience added to the ruthless nature of his character. The crew used a real deer carcass, making the moment even more realistic and impactful on screen. Sophie Turner, who played Sansa Stark, adopted the dog that portrayed her direwolf Lady in real life. After working closely with the dog on set, Sophie grew a strong bond with her and decided to bring her home. The two became inseparable, and Sophie has often shared photos of Lady on social media. Jack Gleeson, who famously portrayed Joffrey Baratheon, retired from acting after his role on Game of Thrones to focus on academics. Despite his success on the show, Jack decided to step away from the spotlight and pursue a more academic path. He went on to study philosophy at Trinity College in Dublin, explaining that he wasn't interested in the fame and wanted to lead a more private life. Iwan Rheon originally auditioned for the role of Jon Snow before being cast as Ramsay Bolton on Game of Thrones. Although he didn't land the part of Jon, the show's creators were impressed by his performance and offered him the role of the sadistic Ramsay, which became one of the most memorable and hated characters in the series. Iwan later revealed that he was thrilled to play such a complex and dark character. Conan Stevens, the original actor for Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, left Game of Thrones to appear in The Hobbit. After filming his scenes as the imposing Mountain, Conan made the decision to pursue a role in Peter Jackson's films. Hafthor Julius Bjornsson was the third actor to portray the Mountain on Game of Thrones. Before him, the role was played by Conan Stevens and Ian White. Hafthor, a real-life strongman and world record holder, brought a new level of physicality to the character, making him one of the most intimidating figures on the show. Barry Gower, the prosthetics designer behind some of Game of Thrones' most iconic characters, played a key role in bringing the Night King, the Army of the Dead, and the Children of the Forest to life. Initially focused on just 6 White Walkers, Gower later managed a team of 70 to 80 people as the show progressed. Together, they spent over 15 hours a day crafting and applying prosthetics for characters, ensuring that every detail was flawless, especially during the show's epic battles and emotional moments. Game of Thrones costume designer Michelle Clapton famously used IKEA rugs to create the iconic cloaks worn by the Night's Watch. The unique texture and look of the rugs were perfect for the rugged, weathered look of the cloaks, and Clapton used them to save time and money while still maintaining the desired authenticity. After this fun fact went viral, IKEA embraced the attention and released instructions for making your own version of the iconic cloak. The swords forming the Iron Throne include one resembling Gandalf's Glamdring from The Lord of the Rings. The iconic sword, known for its distinctive curved hilt, was cleverly incorporated into the throne, adding a subtle nod to the fantasy genre's rich history. The show broke the record for the number of stunt people set on fire in a single scene during the Loot Train battle in Season 7, with 73 burns. This intense and dangerous stunt involved a large number of performers, who were set alight to create the scene's explosive and fiery atmosphere. Daenerys Targaryen and Tyrion Lannister don't have the same eye colors on the show as they do in the books, because filming with colored contacts was too distracting. The decision was made to maintain the actors' performances without the discomfort or distractions that colored contacts can cause. The show had a strict leave no trace policy, requiring the crew to leave filming locations exactly as they found them. This policy was implemented to preserve the natural beauty of the locations and avoid causing any lasting damage to the environment. Peter Dinklage, who portrayed Tyrion Lannister, became the first actor to win 4 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, taking home the award in 2011, 2015, 2018, and 2019. His remarkable performance as the sharp-witted, complex character earned him widespread acclaim and solidified his place in television history. The show's opening title sequence always includes King's Landing, Winterfell, the Wall, and wherever Daenerys is, regardless of the episode's locations. King's Landing is always shown first in the title sequence, with the crowned stag of House Baratheon. This placement reflects the city's central importance to the story, as well as its connection to the ruling House Baratheon at the start of the series. The original pilot, which was cut from the final version, featured a cameo by George R.R. Martin. The author made a brief appearance in the episode, marking his connection to the show that was based on his book series. Actor Christian Nairn, who portrayed Hodor, is a professional DJ and has toured internationally. Nairn has played at clubs and festivals around the world, showcasing his talents as a DJ in addition to his acting career. The show's battle scenes often required hundreds of extras and took weeks to film. These large-scale, action-packed sequences involved meticulous planning, with every detail carefully choreographed to ensure realism and impact. The character of Rose, played by Esme Bianco, was created specifically for the show and does not appear in the books. She was introduced to add depth to the storyline and to explore the complexities of life in Westeros, particularly in King's Landing. Her character was given significant screen time, providing insight into the world of the brothels and the political intrigues of the capital. The show's creators, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, made cameo appearances as wildlings in Season 8. The direwolf pups in Season 1 were played by Northern Inuit dogs. These dogs were specifically chosen for their resemblance to wolves, which made them the perfect fit for portraying the iconic direwolves in the series. Over 4,000 gallons of fake blood were used in the battle scenes throughout the show. This vast amount of special effects blood was essential for creating the intense and bloody confrontations that became a hallmark of Game of Thrones. Bran Stark's storyline in the Game of Thrones television series was significantly expanded beyond his role in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire novels. While Bran's journey beyond the Wall and his training to become the Three-Eyed Raven were important in the books, certain plot points such as his involvement in the Battle of Winterfell and his eventual ascension to the throne were unique to the show. The famous Red Wedding scene was so intense that the cast had to take breaks to calm their nerves between shots. The emotional and violent nature of the scene left the actors feeling shaken, as they had to portray the shock and devastation of one of the most shocking moments in the series. The crew made sure to provide the cast with moments to regroup, ensuring they could deliver such a powerful scene with the right emotional weight. The Battle of the Bastards episode in Season 6 of Game of Thrones was a monumental undertaking, requiring 25 days of filming, 500 extras, 70 horses, and a production crew of 600 people. The sheer scale of the battle scene involved meticulous planning and coordination, with every detail carefully arranged to bring the intense action to life. The actor who played Varys, Conleth Hill, has stated that his character's backstory, which was revealed in the show, was never fully explained in the books. The show delved deeper into Varys' mysterious past, including his rise to power and his motivations, which were only hinted at in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. The famous wildfire explosion in King's Landing was filmed using real pyrotechnics. To create the intense, visually stunning effect, the production team used controlled explosions, which made the scene feel incredibly realistic. Many of the show's iconic locations were filmed in real places. Dubrovnik, Croatia stood in for King's Landing, with its medieval architecture adding to the city's grandeur. The Alcazar of Seville in Spain represented the water gardens of Dorne, while the Roman Bridge in Cordoba, Spain, was used for scenes in Dorne as well. Northern Ireland's Dark Hedges became the King's Road, and Ballantoy Harbour, also in Northern Ireland, was used for pike, helping to create the world of Westeros. Mark Addy, who played King Robert Baratheon, wore a prosthetic belly throughout filming to enhance the character's heavy-set appearance. Tyrion Lannister's legendary line, "I drink and I know things," became one of the show's most quoted moments, and it was improvised by Peter Dinklage himself. George R.R. Martin was approached in 2006 by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss to adapt A Song of Ice and Fire for television. Unlike previous film offers he'd rejected, Martin agreed because their pitch stayed true to the depth of his story. HBO picked it up in 2007 before the books became a global phenomenon. The Game of Thrones cast went through extensive weapon training to bring realism to their roles, learning sword fighting, archery, and even horseback combat. Stars like Maisie Williams trained in water dancing, while Kit Harington had months of broadsword drills. The production hired top stunt coordinators to ensure each actor moved like a true warrior of Westeros. Jon Snow's direwolf, Ghost, was brought to life using a combination of real dogs, animatronics, and CGI throughout the series. In earlier seasons, a real dog was used for close-up shots, but as Ghost grew in size and needed more complex actions, animatronics and CGI were added. The production team worked hard to make sure Ghost's movements were as realistic as possible. Hodor's tragic backstory wasn't part of the original plan. Initially, the character was meant to be a simple and comical figure. However, the showrunners decided to change his story, giving him a deeper, more emotionally compelling arc. The casting of Brienne of Tarth was a groundbreaking move. Gwendolyn Christie's tall, strong physicality was an unconventional choice for female characters on TV at the time, challenging typical portrayals of women in the media. Arya Stark's infamous list of people she wants to kill started off much shorter, but as the seasons progressed, it grew longer and longer. With each betrayal and loss, Arya's list expanded, reflecting her journey from a young girl seeking justice to a skilled assassin. According to researchers, there are over 2,000 named characters in Game of Thrones, with more than 41,000 interactions between them. Tyrion Lannister's height was carefully matched to actor Peter Dinklage's, with the costume department putting extra effort into designing his wardrobe to accentuate his stature. The first season of Game of Thrones had a budget of approximately $60 million, and as the show's popularity grew, so did the budget. By the second season, the budget increased to around $70 million. The third season saw another boost, rising to $80 million, while the fourth season climbed to $90 million. By the time the final season aired, the budget reached a staggering $100 million. The visual effects team worked with animal behavior experts to make the direwolves and dragons realistic, studying real animals like wolves and reptiles to replicate their movements. Peter Dinklage was the only actor considered for the role of Tyrion Lannister. The showrunners wrote the part specifically with him in mind, and never auditioned anyone else for the character. The Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones was inspired by the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC, where Carthaginian General Hannibal executed a double envelopment to annihilate a larger Roman force. In Game of Thrones, the dragon's fire-breathing sounds were crafted by layering various elements, including recordings of animal noises such as turtles mating and her dog's nose whistles, to create a unique auditory experience. Charles Dance, who portrayed Tywin Lannister, often apologized to Peter Dinklage between takes. He found Tywin's harsh treatment of Tyrion so appalling that he felt compelled to make it clear the cruelty was only part of the role. Peter Dinklage appeared in more episodes than any other actor on Game of Thrones, featuring in 67 out of the show's 73 episodes. Some actors reported temperatures dropping as low as -20 degrees Fahrenheit during filming, especially in Season 7's Beyond the Wall episode. The harsh cold made shooting intense battle scenes even more challenging. Christopher Hivju, who played Tormund Giantsbane, supplied the cast with merino wool thermal underwear during cold shoots. His thoughtful gesture helped the team stay warm in freezing conditions, especially during scenes filmed in harsh weather. From 2012 to 2017, Game of Thrones was the most pirated TV series in the world, consistently topping global piracy charts for 6 consecutive years. Christian Nairn, who played Hodor, kept a piece of the actual door used in his character's tragic death scene. He keeps it in his home as a personal memento from the show. Sean Bean, who played Ned Stark, did not have to audition for the role. He was personally selected for the part by the show's creators. Emilia Clarke, who portrayed Daenerys Targaryen, suffered 2 brain aneurysms during the early seasons of Game of Thrones. She underwent multiple surgeries but continued filming while keeping her condition private at the time. The Stark kids were portrayed at different ages in Game of Thrones compared to George R.R. Martin's books. In the novels, the characters are much younger, with Arya being around 9 years old, Sansa 12, and Bran about 7. However, the actors playing them in the show were older, with Arya portrayed by Maisie Williams, who was around 12 when she began filming. Casting Arya Stark was a challenge for Game of Thrones. The showrunners reviewed over 300 auditions but couldn't find the right fit. While in a Moroccan hotel with poor Wi-Fi, they came across Maisie Williams' audition video. After waiting for it to download, they were immediately impressed by her performance, noting she looked younger than her age and had the perfect quality for the role. Peter Dinklage almost turned down the role of Tyrion Lannister because he didn't want to wear a long beard or pointy shoes. In a Reddit AMA, he shared that showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss reassured him, explaining that Tyrion's character was complex and not a typical hero or villain. They highlighted his flaws, which convinced Dinklage to take the role. Kit Harington showed up to his Game of Thrones audition with a black eye. The night before, he got into a confrontation at McDonald's with a man who was making rude comments to his date. After standing up to the stranger, Harington realized the man was much taller and ended up with a fresh shiner. Harington later joked that the black eye may have helped him land the role. David Benioff once pranked Peter Dinklage by telling him the show had been canceled after the pilot was picked up. It took 6 hours for Dinklage to find out it was a joke. Dinklage, known for pranking others, would often pretend to be dead in his trailer, lying in awkward positions and waiting for someone to find him. Emilia Clarke found the show's nudity challenging. On her first day of filming, she fell off a horse, feeling humiliated and crying in front of the crew. The role required a lot of nudity and intense scenes, including a famous rape scene. Clarke admitted needing a break to have a cup of tea and cry before getting back to filming. Reflecting later, she shared that much of the pain seen in her early scenes was her own, not Daenerys's. The horse heart Emilia Clarke had to eat was a nightmare. It was made of gummy candy with pasta inside to resemble arteries, and it tasted like bleach. Clarke had to eat 28 of them, often throwing up between takes. The fake blood also made her so sticky that she ended up stuck to a toilet. Sean Bean had some fun with his decapitated head. In a Reddit AMA, he shared that on set, he kicked the model of Ned Stark's severed head around like a football. Richard Madden chose not to read ahead in the books to stay in character, but fans and the internet spoiled Robb Stark's fate anyway. He said thousands of people ruined it for him before he reached the third book, and a quick Google search confirmed their hints. George R.R. Martin based The Red Wedding on real historical events. He drew inspiration from the Black Dinner of 1440, where 2 young guests were executed after a feast, and the 1692 Massacre of Glencoe, where soldiers killed their hosts after being offered shelter. Many of the faces in the Hall of Faces were modeled after the Game of Thrones crew. To avoid the cost of casting thousands of new faces, the production reused molds from past projects. Co-creator D.B. Weiss said both he and David Benioff appear repeatedly, up to 30 times each. Dwight Schrute once used Dothraki on The Office, saying throat rip in a way that inspired linguist David Peterson to make it an official phrase, calling it a Schrutian compound. Duolingo offers a high Valyrian course alongside real-world languages, letting fans learn the fictional tongue used in Game of Thrones. The White Walkers had a language called Scroth, created by linguist David Peterson. Though never subtitled, it was brought to life in Season 2 through eerie, ice-cracking sound effects instead of actual dialogue. One of the toughest VFX scenes to create was the starving dragons in Season 6. To get it right, the team acted out the dragon's struggle themselves, complete with ropes around their necks, to capture the emotional weight of the moment. In real life, Daenerys' dragons would never get off the ground. Experts say Drogon's massive size defies the limits of flight, far heavier than any bird or pterosaur that's ever flown. Game of Thrones has inspired real-world science. In 2018, entomologist Brett Ratcliffe named 3 new beetle species after Daenerys' dragons: Dragoni, Rhaegali, and Viserioni. Then in 2019, Australian scientists named a bee-fly species Paramanovius Night King after the Night King. Both Emilia Clarke and Lena Headey have portrayed Sarah Connor from The Terminator. Clarke played the role in Terminator Genisys, starring alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger. Lena Headey, who played Cersei Lannister, previously portrayed Sarah Connor in the TV series Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles. George R.R. Martin made showrunners D.B. Weiss and David Benioff guess Jon Snow's real mother as a test. He wanted an intelligent answer based on the facts of the world, and the two had already discussed the theory for hours before. Sean Bean never learned Jon Snow's true parentage. Though he knew his character, Ned Stark, would die early, many plot details, including Jon's real parents, were kept from him. Bean appreciated the secrecy, believing it was part of what made Game of Thrones so captivating when secrets were revealed. Ian White played 5 characters on Game of Thrones. In Seasons 1 and 2, he portrayed a White Walker and also Gregor Clegane. Standing over 7 feet tall, he played various giants, including Dongo the Doomed in Seasons 3 and 4, One in Seasons 5 and 6, and a White Giant in Seasons 7 and 8. Lena Headey didn't perform Cersei's Walk of Atonement in Season 6. Rebecca Van Cleve filmed the nude scene, while Headey filmed it clothed. The VFX team merged the footage. The loot train attack took 18 days to shoot, with Daenerys riding Drogon into battle. Filmed in Spain, it required tight coordination across departments, ensuring continuity and syncing cameras with pyrotechnics for VFX. Director of photography, Robert McLaughlin, noted that each dragon shot was meticulously planned and budgeted to the second. The seemingly seamless one shot of Bronn running through chaos in the loot train attack is actually 3 shots spliced together. Director of photography, Robert McLaughlin, explained that they split the sequence to incorporate burning bodies and flying dragons, with the VFX team blending the cuts so well that even McLaughlin can't spot them now. In Season 8, Hafthor Julius Bjornsson, who played the Mountain, needed a stunt double for the first time. Despite being a world record-holding strongman and performing all his own stunts in previous seasons, the complexity of the final season led to Bjornsson requiring a double. He admitted it was the hardest season he'd filmed for Game of Thrones. Season 8's The Long Night marked Maisie Williams' first battle on Game of Thrones. Filmed over 55 nights in Ireland, it was a physically demanding experience for Williams, who had never been part of such intense scenes before. She described the challenge as draining but rewarding, knowing it would be part of an iconic moment in the show. Tyrion is likely the true main character. Mathematicians analyzed the books and found he interacts with the most characters. He also appeared in every episode of seasons 2 and 5, more than most. Joffrey was inspired by the Roman Emperor Caligula, cruel, twisted, and drunk on power. Even his look was modeled after him, earning the nickname Little Boot, just like the infamous ruler. Carice Van Houten, who played Melisandre, was almost cast as Cersei Lannister. She was originally asked to audition for the role, but had to pass because she was filming Intruders with Clive Owen at the time. Imagine the Red Woman wearing the lion's crown. Before becoming Jaime Fraser in Outlander, Sam Hogan auditioned for Game of Thrones 7 times. He went out for roles like Renly, Loras, and even members of the Night's Watch. By season 6, Game of Thrones was costing over $10 million per episode. That's a huge leap from season 2, where the showrunners had to beg HBO for an extra $2 million just to shoot the Battle of the Blackwater. The series only got bigger from there. Season 5 alone filmed across 5 countries with over 5,000 extras. Dean Charles Chapman actually played 2 Lannisters. Before he became King Tommen in season 4, he appeared as Martin Lannister, Cersei's cousin who was captured and killed by the Tullys. A short jump in family tree later, he was recast as her son. Natalie Dormer had a smart spoiler strategy. She only read Marjorie's scenes. That way, even she could enjoy the show like a fan. She told Jimmy Kimmel she skipped every storyline not involving Highgarden or King's Landing, so each episode still held surprises for her too. David Benioff almost risked his marriage for Jon Snow. His wife, actress Amanda Peet, jokingly threatened divorce if Jon died. Technically, Jon did die, but he came back, so did the marriage. Contact lenses were tricky for the cast. Maisie Williams wore opaque lenses for Arya's blindness, making it so she couldn't see during close-ups and even the supposed blind fight. George R.R. Martin got a dragon egg as a wedding gift. Though his cameo in the pilot didn't air, Martin received one of the iconic dragon eggs from the show's designer when he married Paris McBride in 2011. Ben Hawkey, who played Hot Pie, opened a Game of Thrones-inspired bakery during the show's run, offering treats based on recipes from the series. Ian Glenn revealed that to prevent leaks, cast members could only read the scripts on secured iPads, as production was paranoid about spoilers. Daenerys' iconic blonde hair took over 2 months and 7 prototypes to perfect. Throughout the 8 seasons, the show used more than 12,000 wigs and hair pieces. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed listening to those completely useless facts about Game of Thrones. If you know of any more useless facts, then please let us know in the comments. I'll make sure to pin the most useless one. Anyway, I'll see you later.